host Keith, and tonight we're going to have a mini review on a movie that I'm really excited to talk about because it's in a genre that I have a great deal of affinity for, and that, of course, is the horror genre. And tonight we're going to talk about the movie It Follows. Now, I tried to go out and see this for a few weeks because it had a limited release, and in my area, about as close as it came during the limited release was about 96 miles up in New York City, I believe is where it was, and I live in the Philly area. So I was pretty happy that it got a wide release. I could have seen it in the Philadelphia Film Festival earlier this year. I sort of kick myself now for not being able to have seen it at that early state. Because in general, I'm not gonna lie to you, I liked it in general. It came from nowhere, and it went into a limited release from the film festivals to a wide release, and it was a low budget film. I kind of subscribed to the hype. I was fascinated by the movie that got a good review from critics in a genre. I mean, basically, the horror genre does not get a lot of favorable reviews from critics, and and there's different reasons for that. I mean, I was with Traumatic Somatic for a while, and we reviewed all different types of things, and I had to accept the fact that a lot of people out there liked movies that were cookie cutter and maybe had a lineage that was perceived to be from the golden derivative of Night of the Living Dead. Homage is a huge part of what goes into horror movies for a lot of people, because a lot of people like to make horror movies, and there's a lot of fans out there that are diehard in that realm, and I'm not even going to go into that realm of things. I really wanted a horror movie basically that would transcend the mundane and become something different. But this movie was really, on the surface, could be looked at as a morality play. You have Jay, who was played by Maika Monroe. She has a sexual encounter with a guy that she doesn't know very well, who is named Hugh, played by Jake Weary. And you kind of enter in this world where everyone that you've had sex with kind of interplays with your life, and everybody in the future does as well, from the sense that there's this demonic thing that is walking towards you from wherever it is at that point to kill you. And you can only see it, and it manifests itself in a way that only you can see. There's a little bit of story where he demonstrates to her that is indeed the case. And you can't get rid of it unless you pass it on to somebody else. And all of this is done through a sexual encounter. So, you get the moralistic, element to the story right from that. And to me, the brilliance is in that tension. It's a simple construct, but the evil is established. I mean, you don't have to know why. And for my part, I think it's brilliant that they don't tell you why. I don't need to know why. It just is. And then, like, the story as it unfolds, there's characters that are walking towards the hapless victim, and they're sort of unawares, which almost seems silly at certain points, but you don't know if it's just a random person sort of walking in the periphery or not. And to me, that was brilliant. And then ultimately there's a moral conundrum. So what do you do in this scenario when you know that the only way that you can escape the position you're in is to have sex with somebody else to pass on this, in essence, curse? What do you do? But knowing, here's the rub. If that person gets killed, it comes back to you. So you're only kind of buying yourself time, unless you go to the drastic measure that this guy did to her, where she's in this. He proves to her that she's in some she's in a scary place. So. To me, it's fantastic in that element. At the end of the day, what's fantastic about it is the fact that they don't rely on those typical horror scares. I watched many movies where the biggest scare was somebody startling another person and doing and you get that scream, and everybody in I don't even get bothered by those types of things anymore. This was an unrelenting sort of like knowledge that this is not something you can escape. This is evil. This is you don't know why. For me, as a kid, when I watched Twilight Zone and I watched Tales from the Dark Side on WGN was one of my favorite things as a kid growing up. And it was just evil from an evil sense. And you didn't get like that element of, here's this guy that we all go to talk to that tells us the entire backstory where everything is explained and we know how to fight this evil. No, you didn't get that. You got these sort of macabre type of situations where you didn't get a perfect ending. You didn't understand why the evil necessarily happened, but you bought into it because you had an emotional connection with the characters. Now, I'd be remiss, I would be, terribly remiss if I didn't say that the soundtrack was almost to the point of distraction in this movie. And I think they did that for on purpose, just as they did this thing with the 360 camera that almost made me dizzy in the thing. It wasn't major. It was just like a little thing they did a couple times in the movie, and I think they were doing an homage because so much is about homage in this genre that they did a little bit of that. It wasn't terrible, but they threw that in. The other thing, there was this sort of a time lapse of like, they looked like they were kind of in the 70s at a certain point, and yet, the little girl had this thing that was like a I don't know, I don't even know what it was. It looked like it was a piece of makeup that she could use to text on. And maybe that's a real thing these days. I have no clue. But that seemed a little bit unusual. There's an anachronistic, but it didn't really put me off in the sense that this was a movie to kind of put you off in a lot of different ways. And the only other thing you could bring out about it is they never really showed a lot of adults in the movie. They kept it very focused on the young adults in the movie. Who were, between whatever ages. I mean, the character that played it is like 20-something, 22, 23, but she was playing more of a 17-year-old. She was wonderful. I think most of the acting was pretty good for a movie of this type. I applaud the director. I think it's fantastic that David Mitchell has created something that I honestly hope that he makes a lot of money off of this, especially as it went to a wide release for a lot of people, and is devoured because he has a simple concept. And the thing that twists everybody is the fact that there's a moralistic element to it in a way that it hasn't been done before. And his visual concepts on the screen, for me, and people can object, but I thought they were well done. He did not have a lot of effects. He did a very small effects type of thing, but the way that the movie was shot was done very well. There was a tension throughout the movie, and classic horror fans who want to be scared because another guy walks up behind the other guy, or there's a scary thing on the wall and you got to look at it and whatever. No, it doesn't do that for you. I'm sorry. This is not that type of movie. This is how you do a low-budget horror movie and actually have a story. It's brilliant. I hope you make tons of money. I hope you continue to do stories like this. Because here's the one thing I'll tell you. This has everyone talking about horror movies again. And I like the horror genre. I hate the horror schlock. And this wasn't that. Well done.